In today's video, we're comparing the Whoop versus the Apple Watch. And more specifically, what we want to find out is which one measures your heart rate more accurately when doing cardio. So to compare the two, make sure we're truly choosing the best one. We're using the old school chest strap method because I know this thing measures my heart rate accurately. All right, let's get into how we're going to test this and let's see if there's a clear winner. Okay, so to set this up, I'm gonna do 5 minutes of cardio on my row machine and then 5 minutes of cardio on my ski erg machine. Both of those are completely different movements, and with the ski erg machine, why I wanted to do that is that by doing that motion, I mean moving my arms a lot, and these sensors will just inevitably move no matter how tight I can get them. But this will not. So that's where it will really test the accuracy, and then obviously the row machine is just kind of a baseline to see the variance between the three. What I'm gonna do for the chest strap is going to be having a camera on the actual monitor on both of these machines because it's Bluetooth and it will have my heart rate up. Then with the Whoop app, I will start a workout so I can see my heart rate in there as well, right? And then the same thing follows with the Apple Watch. I will do the health app or whatever it is, start a workout on the Apple Watch. It will track my heart rate as well, and then we're gonna compare the three. And I'll be able to give you guys some live commentary because I'll have my phone with the Whoop app tracking my heart rate on both of the machines as I'm doing it. And then on the actual monitor itself, the Wahoo, like I said, Bluetooth, so I'll be able to exactly see the variance between the chest strap heart rate and then my Whoop heart rate. And then this app will have to be kind of in the background. I'm not gonna be able to do all three at once. But let's see what happens. All right, tests are complete. So obviously I only showed you guys about 30 seconds of rowing and 30 seconds of skiing because if I showed you the 5 minutes of both, that'd just be too boring, right? And I don't want to do that to you. So what I was looking for in those 5-minute tests was the average heart rate and the max heart rate of the Whoop versus the Apple Watch. And then I was also analyzing what I kind of considered the control for this experiment is the heart rate strap, right? So first, we're gonna get right into it. We're getting into the results. Well, I got my computer right here. I wanna give you the results. Then I wanna discuss the obvious limitations of this experiment, if you wanna call it that. It's kind of what I wanna call it. Sounds more fun that way, right? And then I'm gonna give you my thoughts and why, whether or not this even matters, like if you're tracking with this consistently or this consistently, does it matter if it maybe doesn't measure up to this? Does it measure up to this? We're about to find out. All right, so let's get into the part all of you guys have been waiting for. So for the 5-minute row, the Whoop on average had a heart rate of 132 and a max heart rate of 156 BPMs. The Apple Watch had an average heart rate of 131 and a max heart rate of 154. So right there we can see that both average heart rates are very comparable between the two, which is good to know. And even the max heart rate, very comparable, right? Within 1 to 2 BPMs. But how did they compare to our trusty Wahoo chest strap? Let's find out. So for the 5-minute row and the chest strap, what we got there was an average heart rate of 131.3 BPMs and a max heart rate of 139. So what does that mean? How do they compare? Well, the Apple Watch was closer to the average heart rate by 0.3, which is a very small margin, right? All of those are within what I would consider an acceptable range for an average heart rate, especially considering I'm wearing this on my wrist, and this on my chest, different arms. right? That's pretty amazing that actually they're all so close. The one thing that is kind of crazy is that both were more than 15 BPMs on their max heart rate away from the the Wahoo chest strap. So that shows you right there, that's a pretty big outlier. And is max heart rate that important? I'll give you my thoughts in the end. We'll kind of get into that. But for the average heart rate over 5 minutes, honestly, I'm gonna give both of those my pass because that's really good to be that close. All right, now let's get into the ski. So for the 5-minute ski, the Whoop had an average heart rate of 130 BPM and a max heart rate of 151. Now get ready for something crazy. The Apple Watch had an average heart rate of 144 BPM and a max heart rate of 150 BPM. So you can see right here that the average heart rate between just these two, not even comparing it to this, is 14 BPM. So one clearly has to be way outside the range, and one is gonna be much closer to this one. So which one do you think it is? I'm about to tell you. This one honestly kind of surprised me that it was that different at least. So for the 5-minute ski, the Wahoo chest strap had an average heart rate of 131.6 and a max heart rate of 142. Now, let's go back and see exactly how close they are. I'm gonna go back to my results here. So the Whoop for the average heart rate was only off by 1.6. The Apple Watch was 12.4 beats per minute off of the average heart rate. And then both of them kind of following with that first experiment with the row. The Apple Watch was off by 8 BPMs and the Whoop was off by 9 BPMs for max heart rate. So obviously both of them are not very comparable when we're looking at max heart rate, but for the average heart rate over 5 minutes, I mean, the Whoop was only 1.6 off and the Apple Watch was 12.4 off. So yes, the Apple Watch was closer when I did the row, but that's specifically what I talked about in the intro, why I wanted to do the ski, because I had this thing ratcheted all the way down, which is kind of uncomfortable to wear, to this first hole, so that it doesn't move when I'm skiing, right? And I had my Whoop, which it's generally pretty tight, right? Now I'm gonna tell you guys, I don't have any affiliation with either company. I obviously own both with my own money, but I'm gonna be honest that I prefer the Whoop. So there might be some bias here, but you can't bias the data that I got from these individual apps, right? So now let's quickly, before I go into my actual thoughts, talk about the limitations that are very obvious in the study, but it's a very important study, an experiment, myself, case study, right? But it's very important to at least point out and recognize. So let's look at those really quickly. Okay, so limitation number one is that I obviously only did 5 minutes on each machine. Going longer is gonna give you a better rolling average, it's gonna give you more data points. I could go on and on why I could have gone longer, but that's what I did. I also didn't use what would be considered the gold standard, meaning that's what we're comparing all the other measurements to in the scientific basis. The gold standard measurement for heart rate accuracy, which is actually a 12 lead EKG. I did though, let you guys know, I did look at getting one on Amazon, or you can't even do that because they're only refurbished and they're for medical people only. And I think it was on eBay, they're like 1,300 bucks. So I didn't do that, but maybe in the future, that'd be a pretty sick video to see how actually close we're getting here, right? Okay, limitation number 3, N equals 1, meaning it is a case study. There's literally one subject and it was me, right? Obviously more subjects, more variability, always gonna make a study stronger. Limitation number 4 is I probably should have done, obviously longer, right? So I could have done 10 minutes on the row and 10 minutes on the ski, and I could have switched my Whoop from my right arm to my left arm and then vice versa, right? And kind of it would have built a better picture of maybe my right arm was getting more of a pump or these kind of, you never know, right? That's why it's always good to try to control for as many variables as you can. And that's why also no experiment is perfect. This one was far from it. But the last limitation that I want to point out, number 5, is I could have done more forms of cardio. But there is a pretty good reason for this, at least right now where I'm at in Colorado. It's very cold and snowing actually and pretty icy outside. So I can't run and I can't bike. So I was pretty much confined to doing my garage gym, and all I have is a ski erg and Concept 2 row erg. So obviously I could have done more. It would have given me a better data set to work with heart rate specifically, but here we are. So those are the 5 limitations I came up with. Obviously, there's probably so many more. This is not a perfect study, but I do think I got really good data from it, and I'm actually gonna show you right now one thing that is not ideal with the Apple Watch, and that's probably just a bug, but it happened twice, so it's kind of weird. I will show you the different app screens to also prove to you guys that I did not just do 30 seconds like I showed you, I did do 5 minutes. So let's look at those really quick. Okay, so first we'll start with the Whoop. And one thing I really like about this app, as you can see what I'm doing now, is throughout this workout, so this is the rowing workout, you can see exactly your heart rate over the entire course of it, right? By actually scrolling your finger, and it will show you your exact heart rate, which is really cool. I really like that feature. So you can see the average heart rate, the max heart rate. This is where I got those numbers from to compare to the chest strap. Okay, now let's go into the ski. I just called it cross-country skiing. Same kind of thing, right? Still, very awesome feature that I can basically look through, get these numbers, get these metrics. Really like that about the Whoop app. Also shows you your heart rate zones, which are very important. We will talk about next when I'm giving you my honest thoughts of, is this accuracy good enough if you have a Whoop or an Apple Watch? We'll talk about that. But now I want to show you what happened in the Apple Watch. Okay, so you can see this is the Apple Watch, the fitness app that you have to do it in. First of all, I'd like to point out that they did not have rowing, or I'm sure they had downhill skiing. I know they have that because I've done that before. But I didn't want to make a custom workout. It was kind of annoying. And like I said, there's probably some biases, so you have to excuse those. But what you can see that is not a bias is that when I'm looking at my heart rate there, and I'll click show more here in a sec, there's an obvious gap of, it tracked right around 3, almost 4 minutes, but not quite. And then it just missed somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure why. And I'm like, okay, that was just an artifact. Maybe it's from rowing, whatever. But you will see when I go to my ski, which I had to call a run because, right, for the reason I discussed, same thing. It's some big gap after I start and it's just gone. So if any of you know an explanation or a fix for this, because I do use this actually for running a lot in the summer, I've never noticed this. It's kind of weird. Maybe it is the movement. Not sure. Just thought that was kind of strange. But also just direct comparisons, apples to apples, the app. Obviously on the Apple, it's just not, apples, and we're using Apple. It's just not as ideal, right? The Whoop, I can go through, I can see my exact heart rate, I can track it. In the Apple app, you can't even do that at all. It just kind of shows you those sketchy little bar graph things, whatever. Okay, besides the point, just wanted to show you guys the comparisons, where I got the data from, and also prove to you that I actually did do 5 minutes. Okay, now let's give you my thoughts. I want to give you my thoughts on, is this accurate enough to trust? Yes, this is, in my opinion, specifically the Whoop, but also the Apple Watch. Neither of them are too far where it's going to impact your training if you are average or above average endurance person. Because obviously this too is not going to matter in a lifting environment. You don't necessarily care about your heart rate that much and what zone you're in. But I do know, and you've probably heard, the zone 2 argument or heart rate zone training in general. Very important. So I want to bring up this graphic here and show you why I don't think this level of accuracy away, the plus or minus away from this chest strap is going to matter. Because if we look here at my heart rate zones, you can see zone 2, which we talked about is very important to stay in for what they found just to be cardiorespiratorily fit, or also for an endurance athlete. You can't do all your training in 4 and 5. You're going to blow up. And if you're doing hours and hours of training, it's got to be more in that zone 2, zone 3, kind of a recovery state, right? So if we look at the differences that the Whoop had or the Apple Watch had from the chest strap, more so on the row because we saw on the ski it was just not ideal, but they weren't ever going to be really outside. It's not going to be skipping from zone 2 to zone 3 in the difference. Yes, of course, as you get on the lower end of zone 2, if I'm at 142 beats per minute, so this is my specific heart rate zones, if I'm losing 1.6 beats per minute on this in difference, or 0.7 for the row and it was 1.6 for the ski, yes, will I drop out of zone 2 and go into high zone 1? Sure. But for most people, that's not going to matter. And really, I was actually very surprised in a way. I've generally known this is pretty accurate for the Whoop, at least. I was surprised how close it was. And I was actually pretty stoked because it is nice to just know that I just have to wear this because, yeah, this might be more accurate, especially the max heart rate. And just on that point, I don't think that matters because I guess it could matter if you're really pushing zone 4, zone 5, and like you want to see, like, okay, did I hit my max heart rate for this workout? If that was your goal, then yeah, you're gonna have to go way harder with this because it was like 10 to 15 off. Not ideal. You'd be probably over pushing yourself. And so I guess if you are an elite person out there, endurance athlete, then yeah, this might not be good enough. I'll give you that. But if you're an average person, you like to do endurance for fun, you run half marathons casually, right? Or 10Ks or do bike races, these kind of things. I think these both will do you well. I prefer the Whoop for reasons that I talked about in many other videos of mine. And I guess my take is if you're consistently using one, whether it's this, the Whoop, or the Apple Watch, you're gonna be, you know, whatever that zone 2 is for that device, and you're training in that, it's gonna be close enough. You're not really ever gonna be too far outside of a zone where it's gonna matter that much. Like if you go to 157 beats per minute outside of zone 2, is that can be so much worse than training perfectly in zone 2? No, like I just don't think so. If you have some hard data proving that, that'd be great. But for the convenience, because I will say, I've worn this a lot. It's, yes, very sweaty and gross. I've worn it biking, I've worn it running, I've worn it even skiing, snowboarding, these kind of things just to test it out. This thing is freaking annoying because if you know, you know. They will slip down, slips down your back. No matter how tight you get it, it's moving. And I got it super tight on these 2 tests, and these movements are a little different because when you're running, obviously that force of gravity, right? That's why I love either of these devices is that it's comfortable. You just wear it all day. And if it's measuring your heart rate to this level of accuracy compared to a chest strap, in my mind, that's awesome. Okay, so that's the results. And those are my takes. Hopefully they're not too hot for y'all. If they are, please comment below. I wanna hear, you know, rip up my experiment design and give me what you've maybe tested with heart rate strap, Whoop, Apple Watch, etc. But I do wanna invite you guys to do one more thing. That is, if you are a Whoop member already, I am starting a Iron Oath community, which basically in the Whoop app, and I'm showing it right now on screen, is you can go to the community tab and you can join certain teams, right? And it will be a list of individuals and you can get ranked on strain, recovery, and I believe sleep. Yes, strain, recovery, sleep. And I'm inviting all you guys to join it. I'm putting the code on the screen as well. All you do is go to the join team by invite code, put that in. And what I wanna do with this is get as many people into it before January 1st. Start of the new year, people are trying to get fit, right? So what I wanna do is I'm hosting a Iron Oath Fitness Challenge. From January 1st to January 31st, we are gonna give prizes, yes, multiple prizes, first, second, third place from both categories. And first place, which I will not tell you right now what it's gonna be, but I promise it will be sick for both categories, is for the most strain on average of those 31 days, prize for first, second, third, and for the most slept on average for those 31 days, prize. So if you guys are interested in cool prizes, they're gonna be fitness related, obviously maybe some Whoop straps, maybe some supplements, things like this, right? Clothing, you never know. Then you should definitely join. It's free to do, and it's cool to watch everybody. We can be active in the chat, ask questions, these sort of things. So if that interests you, cool, you should do it. Also, if you're interested in these kind of videos, I have 2 other ones that I made. I will pop up on screen right now. One is an in-depth review about the Whoop. People are really liking it. And the other is about the strength trainer portion of the Whoop, because if you know, and you're a lifter, the strain that it gives you on a normal basis is not quite what you're gonna get if you're squatting heavy, deadlifting heavy, these kind of things. So check out that one if you're into the gym. All right, I really appreciate you guys watching. I will see you in the next one.